it's really not the weapons that are dangerous. It's the people you have to worry about.
Welcome to Heartland Arms, where skill, safety, and training all come together. Today we're going to go over the safe and responsible firearm handling. And if you watched our intro, you saw the 4 firearm rules of safety. If you watched our intro show, you saw the 4 rules of firearm safety. Guess what? Safe firearm, we're going to go over them again. Let's go to the rules. There they are. We see them quite a bit. We're going to go through them in depth again, just to make sure we're good. So, you have treat every firearm as if it's loaded, okay? Even if someone tells you that it's unloaded, you want to always check it yourself, okay? You also never assume that it's unloaded. It's always loaded. Every firearm is always loaded until you check it. So when I pull up a firearm, I check it, make sure it's unloaded. I have to make sure that there's nothing in the chamber there. That's an unloaded firearm. This one, I don't have a slide. But I'm going to look at it, and I don't even want to go through the motion. You know what? Yeah, that's unloaded, because you can't load it. That's what you do. You also, if you notice, you always point the firearm in a safe direction. You don't ever want to point this end at anything you're not willing to destroy. So you don't want to flash someone, you don't want to flash yourself, so you don't ever want to point a firearm at yourself. You never want to do this. This is horrible. You always point it in a safe direction. Always point it in a safe direction. Downrange, safe spot, to the ground, that's where you want to go. You also always want to keep the finger off the trigger. The only time you go down to the trigger is when you are on target, you're sighted in, you're ready to shoot, you're ready to pull the trigger, because that is what you're going to shoot and destroy. Hopefully it's just a target. Hopefully you're just target shooting, and that's what you're going to put a hole in. You also want to know what's beyond your target. Bullets can go through walls. They can go through targets. They could ricochet off things. Bullets can move. You always want to be aware of what's in front of your target, beside the target, and beyond the target. So we're always going to go over these rules. There they are. All the 4 firearm safety rules. If you follow these 4 rules, I'm telling you, chances are you're not going to have a problem. If you follow these 4 basic rules, I'm not going to point this at someone, even joking around. So I'm not going to joke around and say, yeah, I'm going to point a firearm at my buddy, and because we're joking around. No, you got to treat these as very serious. You don't joke around, and you don't. Now, if you are playing, if you're at competition paintball, where you're doing that and you're wearing the safety gear. If you're playing airsoft and that's the goal, then that's a different story. But as a general rule, if you're not engaged in a special activity, know what you're dealing with, don't even point a fake gun at something like that. They don't know if it's real. They may respond thinking that they are in danger, that they're going to be killed, and they have to stop that threat. So always keep that in mind. Now, you also have basic handling and safe handling of these, which is it's always unloaded when it's not in use. So this, now let me lock this back here, and let's go to the front camera. So you see that's completely unloaded. You can see right through it. This is an unloaded firearm, so when this is not in use, this is not going to be loaded. In fact, I generally, my magazine is unloaded, and it's not even in the firearm. Generally, I keep if it's not loaded, I don't have these together at all. So you remove the magazine, open the action, check the chamber. Double check by looking. You could go in there and feel. I would recommend watch it, because that's how you get yourself pinched. Safety is both visual and tactical. Now, you also always want to make sure you're using the right ammunition for your firearm. Each firearm is designed for a specific caliber. It's printed on the barrel. It's printed on the slide. There's something on here that indicates what type of round this takes. This one that I have up here, this one is a 9mm. So this would take 9mm. That's the ammo I use. That's what I want to do. Always, always use the correct ammunition. And then when you're storing your firearm, always make sure it is secure. So when you're storing a firearm that's secure, you want to make sure that they are locked up. So if you have children, you need a safe. There's many different, there's safes, lock boxes. You can have cable locks. Ammo should be stored separately. So you have your firearms in one safe. Maybe maybe you have a smaller safe for your ammo. Maybe you have them tucked away where you want to keep them kind of separate, especially if it's not a self-defense weapon. Now, if you have a firearm that, you know what, I want to keep this loaded because if someone breaks in my house in the middle of the night, I want this done. Maybe you should consider a biometric safe where you could put this firearm in there where it's still going to be safe and go from there. If you have kids, if you have pets, I always recommend making sure that it's put away. If kids and pets are there, I would recommend a safe, okay? I always recommend putting them in a safe at some point. Even if you're home alone, if you live alone, just get yourself a little hand safe where you can put your thumbprint on there, it can open, or a quick code that you could get in there. And then you also want to practice getting in that, because if something happens, you want to have that ready to go. So always secure and store them safely. Okay? With that said, keep in mind that there is also some range and practice etiquette that you go through here, okay? So when you're on the range or you're in your practice environment, there are basic guidelines that you want to follow, okay? If you're on the range, you always want to listen to the range officer. So whoever's in charge of the range, they're there for everybody's safety, not just yours, but everybody's else. You always want to obey their commands. If you are new to firearms, talk to them. They're not there just to be the rules enforcer. They're there for safety and help. So if you don't know what the range rules are, simply say something. Go to that person and say, hey, this is my first time shooting on the range. I don't know all of what to expect. Can you help me? As a general rule, because they are up front, wanting to be safe on everybody, wants to be safe, they're going to go through the rules. You should know the 4 firearm rules at that point. Make sure you're pointed in a safe direction. They'll tell you, always point down range. Okay? So, also, you always want to keep the action open and the gun unloaded unless you're on the firing line. So, when I'm not on the firing line, I know this is unloaded, because I'm dealing with ammo on there, I'm going to always kick it back like that. Let's go to the front camera. So I'm going to kick it back like that. So when I have that, let's go to the overhead. That's how it's going to sit on the range. So I'm going to have that there, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to load this. And as I load this, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to put it like that. So I know this one, when I slap that in there, I'm ready to shoot. That one's good to go. If I have multiple firearms, I'm going to do that same setup for all of these, okay? So it's going to be unloaded. So if I'm not firing this one and I'm firing this one's going to stay the way it is, and I'm going to move to this one. Okay? That's the way it is. All right? So, also, you'll hear a lot of things that say eyes and ears. That is your eye and ear protection. Okay? So you'll have glasses because you don't want that brass to come up and hit you in the eye. You like vision, I'm sure. Ears will protect the sound. You always want to use those when you're on the range, when you're practicing. Always wear eye and ear protection. There are the ones that just go in your ear. There's the big muffs. You could wear both. They can range from, cheap. Every range I've been to, especially the indoor ranges, they all have eyes and ears for you there. If you don't like to use those and you want to buy your own, buy your own. If you're going to shoot a lot, I would recommend buying your own because that's going to be comfortable for you. If you wear glasses, you want to get eye protection that goes over your glasses. Okay, prescriptions are expensive. I would rather you beat up and scratch up a pair of cheap plastic ones that go over there rather than going back to the eye doctor and replacing a prescription lens. That's what I would recommend. Now, one of the other big things that I always see at the ranges too is when you're at the range, make sure you clean up your brass and leave the space better than what you found it. That is, I hate to say it, but that should be a way of life around the whole. If everybody did that, we would be great. Our beaches would be clean. Our environments would be clean. All of our parks would be clean. If everybody took practice of cleaning up and making sure that if they occupied a space, that they always leave it, if not the same, better than what they are. So if you say, oh yeah, there's an extra piece of brass, having the attitude of saying, that wasn't mine. I only shoot 9mm. That's a 45. I'm not going to pick that up. Go ahead, pick it up. Because you know what? People notice when you do the right thing. Now, there's also something that we have in this is it's called situational awareness and your mindset for a firearm. Okay? Owning and handling a firearm also means dealing with it responsible. If you're going to carry it, carrying it responsible. Which means you never, ever, ever mix drugs and alcohol with firearms. They have no place together, okay? So make sure that if you're going to have a beer, the gun's put away. If you're going to have the gun, the beer's put away. Very simple. Drugs, keep them away. If you're going to do what you're going to do, but don't mix. Never, ever, ever mix them together. Also, make sure that you have the right mindset. If you upset, mad, you're not feeling it that day, maybe that's where you leave the firearm at home. If you're having a bad day, putting a firearm in the mix and drugs and alcohol, any of those could make the situation worse. I would recommend make sure if you're having a bad day, the firearm is put away. If you have to be in control of your emotions when you're dealing with this. If you're having a bad day, don't do it. Okay? Stay calm, focus. And then also, you also want to practice regularly. You always want to keep safety in mind. So anytime you're practicing, you want to practice the smart way. You want to practice the safe way. Don't go, well, yeah, I normally check if it's unloaded, but this one time, I'm not going to check it. That one time is when you could go ahead and have an accident. That one time could be, well, I know I'm pretty sure it's unloaded, so let me go ahead and clean it, and then you shoot your neighbor through the wall. That is what we're trying to avoid. Again, following the 4 rules. So, keep in mind, safety is not a suggestion here. It is a lifestyle when you're dealing with firearms, okay? And it should be a lifestyle when you're following other things as well. The 4 rules are a constant checklist. There's not, okay, I know those and they're gone. Those should be constantly in your mind going through. Always, always do that. And it's okay to be a new shooter. It's okay to, not know that much about it. It's okay. But that's where you're going to be cautious. You're going to be careful. You could be curious. But you also want to be committed to learning what you're dealing with. Always keep that. If you have any questions, you always ask. If you have anything that you're trying to learn, ask the question. Not everybody knows everything. I know a lot about firearms. There are some that people show me and go, "Hey, did you know this?" I'm like, "Wow, I didn't even know that existed." It happens. You could be a person that's around guns all the time and go, "Wow, I didn't even know they made that kind of gun." That does that. Each one operates a little different. Their teardowns are different. So it's okay to ask those questions. And you also want to double check with what you're doing. Double check the safety. Double check if it's loaded. Always do that. And the one thing that you want to always do is you always want to keep learning. Never stop learning. That's key. So always keep that in mind when we're going through this. And no matter your experience, I want you to keep learning. Stay safe and always be ready. Thanks for joining us here on Heartland Arms. We'll catch you on the next show.